little bit about why I think I'm an Aspie, and Michelle Vines, and basically just say that I fit all her description when they introduced her, with all these things she likes to do, like analyze her life on an Excel spreadsheet. Now that's something that I would have never thought to share about myself. But yeah, that's what I do. I analyze my complete life and all my choices in life and everything I do on an Excel spreadsheet. I mean, or at least in my journal. For example, just today I was making a list of things that Aspies can do to help the world and make a living, and I haven't finished it yet because I ran out of ideas, because I'm not really a front person, and so I have to realize that if I can't be a speaker and it's like I feel like I have a lot more self-criticism than necessary in order to move forward. But one reason that I'm working on an empath tarot deck is because I love the theory of tarot, and I love Carl Jung's psychology, his approach to psychology. I mean, I think he's right on. He knew what was going on with the human brain. And I can stay at home and use my computer to do art, which is what I love to do. And that way I don't have to really be a spokesperson. But I found out that when I did my Kickstarter campaign, I didn't have very many people that saw it. Like, I couldn't get people to go there to look at it. And the ones that did, the ones that loved the deck and paid $100 for it, those were the ones that were so polarized in the direction of loving the deck. And they were like, oh my God, can you please, 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 please send this to my country? Like, they would really have 3 pleases in a row in their email to me. And I was like, wow, sure, I'll add your country. So I spent 30 minutes per country. I got like 3 or 4 requests from different countries. Actually, maybe it was 5 now, to send it to their country to be able to ship it there. And all of them were like fanatical, like in their emails they were begging me, please, can I buy it? And then as soon as I added their country, like the next day, they bought a deck. And then I had, so that would be like 5 supporters. And then I had another 12 from Canada/United States that didn't have to ask, because those were already on there. And because of that, it makes me feel like my deck is really good, and if I could just reach the right audience. But I just can't figure out how to do it, and I don't want to have to hire someone, like, oh, hire a neurotypical to do your marketing, because maybe it doesn't sell to neurotypicals. Maybe it only is going to sell to Aspies, empaths, and highly sensitive people. And of those, the subset of people that don't think the tarot is some weird religious cult thing, that it's actually a useful mathematical almost tool that parallels the development of the human brain. And that's the way I see it, and that's why it's such a beautiful tool, even if you don't follow the original tarot archetypes and 4 suits. Like, I have 7 chakra suits. But anyway, enough on that. I'm just saying that if I can't make money doing that, then can I make money selling videos? No, because I'm not a spokesperson. I mean, to be a spokesperson, honestly, you have to look different than I look, and so forth, and talk differently and stuff like that. So I just don't know really what to do. I guess I'll cut all this out. The point I want to make is that, like Michelle Vines, okay, Kitty, you're hungry. You want me to feed you? He just woke up. Aw, I'm not going to have to feed you. He's a hungry boy. Let's go get your food. Back, and what I would like to say about, you notice how when you start reading, like, you go on these sites that are the more official Aspie sites, Asperger sites, and autistic sites, and they list all the things about it, and you're like, that's not me, that's not me, that's not me. And then you read the forums and you go, well, that's me, because you identify with the people. Well, I have to point out that my hypothesis as to why this is because the people that are in charge, that have their degrees, and that have, they're making a living by treating Aspies and stuff, and they make these lists, they're neurotypicals. And so they not only are they able to observe your different behavior that you don't notice, because like a fish swimming in the water, you don't notice the water because it's all you know. And so unless someone tells you, you can't know these things. So that's one important phenomena as to why sometimes we don't recognize ourselves in the list. The other thing, and this is the really important but subtle point, is that neurotypicals themselves are not able to put themselves into the shoes of anyone with a different neurotype. And this is the tribal survival program that has stuck with the human race up until now. It's still in the majority of the people, and it's in most of the neurotypicals. In other words, you ever wonder why all the Aspies and the autistics get bullied in school? It's because we are different and we don't fit into the tribe, and so it's their programming that they think you shouldn't be here because you're a threat to us and you're not one of us, so you should get out. And that's just like that ancient, think about if the tribes lived together and somebody was different, that's because they don't belong in the tribe. They're an intruder and they're going to come steal the food. So they're automatically programmed to get rid of all the weirdos that aren't part of the tribe. Because if you're not part of the tribe, you're not doing the same customs, you don't speak the same language, and so you're just considered weird. That was just the way I'll call it an archetype if you've ever studied Carl Jung. It's an archetype that neurotypicals have that Aspies don't have. And that's an automatic program that just throws you into this plan of action, which is let's get together and get rid of this person, or ignore them, or not include them. And another thing that is an archetype, I guess, in ancient tribal societies is if somebody does something very, very bad, and the archetype is like to shame that person, like everybody avoids them because, and that's like, we call that shame. They're being shamed because they did something bad. And this is like a protective mechanism in the tribe to help them not have that happen again. For example, if someone in the tribe, even if it's a kid, does something that's, clearly immoral, like steal from his friend or steal from someone he's jealous of or whatever, the natural way that humans were programmed to treat that is to shame that person so that person wouldn't do it again. The neurotypicals have these archetypal programs that they follow where they, and I'll define that as a pre-installed software package that's helped the human race survive until now, and they act out these certain things that neurologically diverse Aspies and maybe other neurologically diverse people like autistics, empaths, highly sensitive people, etc., do not do. We don't all have those archetypes. Now you may, but like most of the Aspies I've met don't have those. Nor do we have the social rules archetypes. I guess it sort of does fall into the social rules because of ousting the outsider, the bullying. So how does this relate to the lists of how the neurotypical psychologists list all the things that Aspergers do? Not only are they able to observe things that we don't see because they're coming from inside their software, but they also are very, like I say, bullying / judgmental of these diverse neurotypes. And even if they try to suppress that or try to be neutral, it still often comes across as judgmental and negative. Like the way they word it, they make it seem like a negative thing. And what's really going on is it's a difference. And neurotypicals don't know this, but if we did the same thing back to them, like let's just say, I hate to say us and them, but I have to for this example, let's just say there was another planet where the Aspie was the norm and the neurotypical was the minority, and we were like we have this diagnosis for this unusual personality that was some ancient gene that somehow became awakened because these renegade children got their hands in their parents' genetic manipulation kit, and they made some extra embryos that got born, and then those reproduced, and now we have this epidemic of neurotypicals that have the ancient reptilian pre-installed software that we don't want that anymore, but they're starting to become bullies and they're doing all these things that we don't understand. And so we'd make a list of their traits, and we might say that they were prone to lying. They just were pathological liars, and they were would get together in little cliques and bully people that were different from them. Even though they were in the minority, they would still bully others. And maybe, of course, not all neurotypicals, but you know, they would be more prone to do it if they were neurotypical. I've never, ever in my life seen an Asperger that would bully another, just because it's not in our realm of possibilities. Like, our brain doesn't act in a way that would cause us to bully another. So that's why we can't understand it when someone does it to us, because, like I say, it's not in our neurons. So you need to be told this. And Simon Bernard Cohen did so many MRI studies of the Asperger brain back in the 80s/90s and published it, that you can really learn a lot from the clear difference in neurotype. And it really helps you understand that it's just a difference. It's not a terrible thing. As long as you know that you're neurologically different, then you can approach your life with this, you know, knowledge is power. And you can approach your life thinking, okay, these neurotypicals are stuck in these ancient software programs, and I just need to forgive that and just observe that that's what's going on. And when you know this, you can not only not get so upset when they do these terrible things, but you can actually have a little bit of compassion that they're sort of doing those things. And they actually have some, they can actually do things that Aspies can't do. So it's a good partnership. If you can, like, work in a group of diverse people where there's a blend of each, then the people that really need to hyper-focus can hyper-focus. And then he wants a different cat food. That one wasn't his favorite. So I guess I'll point out some examples. Normally the DSM would list all the difficulties that you might have with social stuff, but they don't say, oh, that you might have a higher IQ or that you're strongly logical and rational. Like, we can all relate to these things. You have an ability to hyper-focus, and you have obsessive interests that can lead to some of the Aspies becoming experts in their field, and strong attention to detail, and many are talented in the arts. That would be me. I mean, not talented, but I just did it a lot. People said my art was good, whatever. Anyway, let's see. So, also, the majority of people that have done groundbreaking technological advances in the world are Aspies. And that's been said by people that were experts in Aspergers, and now it's called autism, so that whole spectrum. But the majority, that means over 50%, so that's, wow. I mean, a small percentage of the population become Einsteins, Newtons, Teslas, and other people like that. Well, those are all Aspergers, and so go figure, you know, that why didn't the DSM mention that, you know? What is it about the neurotypicals that made the DSM that would make them just accidentally leave that out? Very interesting, don't you think? Just read this list from the DSM. A person with Asperger's may have impairments in nonverbal behaviors such as eye-to-eye gaze, facial expression, body posture, and gestures. Let me go through each one of those. The first one is eye-to-eye gaze. Well, did you know that in some countries it's rude to look directly in the eye? Isn't that interesting? And so why are we so in the Western world so enamored with, you have to look people in the eye or you're a liar? No, sometimes when I look at people in the eye, I'm getting a download of their entire past and their entire how they feel and everything, and it's very, kind of embarrassing for them. They probably don't want me to see that, so I kind of tend to want to look away because I see so much. I mean, that's me, okay? I'm an empath. Maybe not for you, but... So one of the reasons why I don't look people in the eye constantly is, especially if they're staring at me with their power stare because they're trying to overpower me like a lot of people in the corporate world do. I just, for one thing, I don't want to play that game. And it's kind of like getting daggers, like when people stare at you like, I'm overpowering you, I'm more important than you, I can outstare you, that sort of a thing. That goes on a lot, I just don't want to play that game, so I look away. because I feel the daggers, and it's like, those hurt. Why would I want to expose myself to that pain? So I'll look away. Or, and of course, it's a metaphorical dagger, but it's something that makes my senses pick up an unpleasant feeling. And rather than try to describe it in detail, there's pleasant feelings and there's unpleasant feelings. And when I go to the library and everybody's whispering and relaxed and calm, I pick up a pleasant feeling, a pleasant vibe, and I go straight into ASMR, get tingles, and I'm very happy, and I could work there all day and not be stressed, and I could, not have my amygdala overfiring because of stress. In that sense, it would be a very quiescent environment, and I could get a lot of thinking done. Whereas in the corporate world, with someone staring at me in the face, trying to be powerful over me, kind of like I'm more important than you, it's kind of like hard to look into the eyes because it's an unpleasant feeling. And so I can sense people's agenda, okay? So that's why I don't like to look at their eye, because not only do I sense their agenda, but I don't want to feel that unpleasant sensation. And maybe in another life or later on in this life, I'll, I could stare them back, and I have done that before. Kitty, I'll feed him again. He wants his third course now, but I could stare him back, and I've done it before, like I said. But it makes me feel guilty, So that's the eye-to-eye thing. And then the next thing, and I mean, I guess other Aspies might have other reasons why they don't look in the eye, but I think if you analyze it, you'll realize there's a reason for it, and that it's natural for you. It's not like some problem that you have. I think it's an extrasensory ability that you have. And I don't mean anything magical. I'm just saying a sense that neurotypicals don't have. Like, they have the 5 senses. The Japanese claim there's a 6th sense of thinking, which I totally agree with. And then there's also, beyond that, there's the ability to sense electromagnetic fields and the ability to sense other people's agenda by your eye contact. And there's something going on there with I don't know what it is, but it's like it happens, and I know it's real. Next point is that lack of spontaneity. Okay, that would be the eye-to-eye contact. Facial expressions. We have different facial expressions. Well, when I was growing up, I didn't have facial expressions. I was always very calm. I just had a little Buddha smile. And people would, like my family, okay, they bullied me a lot. All of them did, except for my little sister. And they would say, you're just emotionless. You don't feel anything. But I did. I felt it in my belly. I felt a lot of emotion there, and I got a lot of tummy aches from all the turmoil that went on in my family that I was a bystander of. And I carried that habit with me throughout my life, because if I showed my emotions, I might, reveal that I was crying or reveal whatever. I was happy when I was alone or with people that were nice, and I laughed a lot then, but not when I was around my family, because they were just like so negative, And so I didn't have much of an expression. And then I carried that with me into the workplace, because the workplace was, to me, a horrible place, because there was so much politics there and so much backstabbing that most of the time I wasn't really happy. I just went there because I had responsibilities to pay bills for my family. So I would go to work and try to maintain a neutral face. Otherwise I'd be going around, I hate this place, you know what I'm saying? So I was pretty good at hiding that. But I do sort of have a naturally downturned mouth, as does my mother, and it's genetic. Kind of like, look, see how it just kind of turns down? I even had injections there at one point to try to hide that. But anyway, those were the days. So, so much for trying to fit in, right? So facial expressions, and also I think Aspies, some of the things they do in their face are reversed or just unique. And I think among Aspies, we don't really judge each other as much when weird facial expressions occur. Like, sometimes when I get excited, my face gets kind of ugly. And in this day and age when women are supposed to be really beautiful, and I like have a big smile across my face and my buck teeth are sticking out, and maybe my eyes are squinted or something, I can only do that around people that I know love and respect me. And I actually try to look away so they can, I cover my face when I laugh real hard, because it's just not a gorgeous thing. But that's just how I'm wired, and I accept that. But neurotypicals don't want to accept it. You have to fit into their standards, And, that's why the cosmetic industry is so rich because they know that everybody wants to look a certain way to fit in. Anyway, it's insanity to me. But facial expressions, okay, body posture. Well, Aspies have been bullied their whole lives most of the time, unless you really have enlightened parents. And so they might kind of want to be closed in. And a lot of times I have to put my arms over my belly to protect it because it's very sensitive. Especially if I already have a stomach ache from something that happened that day. It just soothes it. Something about that warmth, I guess, of my arms around my belly. And maybe my skin's thinner than most, or maybe I don't have as many muscles there, but whatever. When I put my arms in front of it, it just really feels good. I don't think it means that I'm closed off. It just means that I'm protecting myself from anything that might threaten me. And if you think I'm being closed off, why don't you ask yourself, Mr. Neurotypical, are you in any way threatening me? Is there any like subconscious desire that you don't want me around or something? Because that might be what I'm picking up. And so it's not that I'm closed off. It's just that it's a comfortable place to put my arms. And more people are saying this nowadays. Body language people, like I heard this really, like a retired CIA woman that was talking about it's okay to put, nowadays the CIA people, they don't think you're hiding something when you have your hands across your belly like that. They consider it a natural, sort of like a relaxed position. Or kind of like sitting with your legs crossed, because it takes away your need to, like when I don't cross my legs and I sit in a chair, especially if I'm wearing a dress, I'm constantly thinking about, oh, are my legs showing anything? Or are my legs going to accidentally, like, okay, if you're sitting like this, naturally, like a lot of times your legs will spread because you sort of relax, right? But for a woman to do that, so I just, if I cross my legs, then I could just not think about it, right? But the body language people might say, oh, or you're closed off, you're all crossed, your arms are here and your legs are crossed, you just want to escape. Well, one, maybe I do want to escape, but two, maybe I'm just more relaxed. So my point is that we have, not only do we have reasons for certain protective positions, but sometimes it's just our comfort position to sit there so that we don't have to worry about that stomach pain. And my legs are crossed because it takes my attention away from my legs, and now I can focus on what they're saying. You see? So, and same with facial expressions. Looking away, or maybe I only smile usually when it's a genuine smile. But did you know that neurotypicals, 99% of their smiling is a fake smile? Like when you can tell, because they don't get the little wrinkles here, and it seems like a fake smile. There's a fake smile and a real smile, and the real smile gives you a real sense of an inner feeling. That's what I noticed, how I can tell it. And then when I analyze it, it's because they have the wrinkles here. But the fake smile is just like this. But a real smile is like, oh, let me think of a kid. You're such a good boy. See all the extra activity in my face? Anyway, so body postures and gestures. Okay, go talk about gestures. Gestures are neurotypical pre-programs. And actually, I wish I had natural gesturing. That's just something that I really admire, those neurotypicals. They know how to talk with their hands, and they can just do all this stuff, and it looks so natural. When I do it, I look just like a weirdo. So I never really gestured. I kept my arms to my side, and I think as a result, people just think I was just a liar or something, because the neurotypical body language rules are very different than the Aspies. And so when Aspies learn body language, they have to realize that it's taught by, conceived by, and followed by the neurotypical majority. And the body language rules of Aspies are very different. So if you're with Aspies and you took body language from the neurotypicals, like say those classes they offer, you just have to skew it and just realize that Aspies are very different. And if you went to other countries, their body language is very different. So why do we Americans and Westerners think that we, meaning the Westerners, have control over what's right with body language? Like, look at some countries, they're like, they hug you all the time, and you come in their house and kiss you and all this stuff. And then us Americans are like, oh, that's too sexual, don't do that, And, and then one time I hugged my grandmother, and she just stood there and didn't move, and I thought, that's so weird. But then again, she was probably Asperger's, and I was just a little kid, and I was told to hug her or whatever. it's like some people just don't like to be hugged because all their life touching meant pain, you know, and so now someone's hugging you and you don't know if they're going to hurt you, so of course you stiffen up. I mean, what? So anyway, it's not like a fault, okay? And then lack of spontaneous seeking to share enjoyment. What does that even mean? What is spontaneous seeking? To share enjoyment, interest, or achievement with other people. You know, I really don't think that's true about Aspies. If you were an Aspie and you had a best friend that was also an Aspie, and one of you like won a prize or got a good grade or whatever, you're going to go to your Aspie friend and go, oh my God, I'm so happy. No, and you're going to just be happy. You're going to be yourself. But of course I'm not going to do that around my family or, you know, around neurotypicals at work. Because the one time I did, it was a fiasco. After I did it, I thought, oh no, now I know the real me. That sucks. Because you know how I know how people at my workplace judged anyone that didn't go to the baseball game and all that neurotypical stuff. And I just kind of gave myself away. Oh well, I never worked with that man again. But anyway, point being is, I never show my true self when I'm around neurotypicals. You know. Okay, because you know we can't. We scare them off. And let's see here. Show apparently inflexible adherence to specific non-functional routines or rituals. Inflexible adherence to specific non-functional routines or rituals. Well, to the neurotypical, my routine of getting the sleep I need may seem to them to be non-functional and specific and inflexible. But I know that if I don't get the sleep I need, I will have a meltdown. So I'm going to be rigid and I'm going to say, you know, I can't work overnight or I can't do graveyard shifts because I have to get sleep in order to function. And so then the neurotypicals are going to go, oh, you're so lazy, you can't even do it. But it's like, if I was diabetic and said that I had to leave every hour to go to the bathroom to shoot my veins with insulin so that I'd survive, they wouldn't say, ew, you're so weird. They'd go, oh, yeah, that's cool, I understand you have to do that. But just to say that I need a basic human need to sleep and to think that I'm lazy, hello? I just think that Aspies have certain needs that they need sleep, maybe more than neurotypicals do. So we should be entitled to the right to take care of our bodies, don't you think? And so these rituals that we do are self-care rituals that we have to do. It, like, for example, it might even seem weird, like, oh, you know, she has to sit on her bed and rock for an hour every evening at 8 p.m. before she goes to sleep so that she can sleep. That's a nonsensical ritual, you know, but no, it's not. I'm doing something. I'm causing my brain to go into alpha, for one thing, and become coherent. And I have a whole video on stimming and why it's healthy. And so that would not, you know, like, I think if the neurotypicals weren't judging us so much, they might actually go, I wonder if there's a reason why they're doing these nonsensical rituals. I wonder if maybe they are more intelligent than us and maybe they have these reasons why they do it so that they can function higher. Whatever, but they don't know. They just judge us and they say that it's nonsensical. What's the actual word they used? They used non-functional routines or rituals. And I'm saying that they are functional, but the neurotypicals are going to say that they're not functional. Hey, you know, they're not functional for me, so they can't be functional for you. That's sort of the mentality of neurotypicals with their pre-programmed software, because they're unable to see other neurotypes. But we on this channel talk about the neurotypical neurotype so that we're able to see other neurotypes. Since we're willing to be open to understand their neurotype, maybe we're the only ones that can bridge the gap, because we are able to see it, I believe. Lack social or emotional reciprocity. Now, I think that we really want to do both, but we just don't know how, because it's like going to another country. If I go to China and I don't know the language and I've never seen anybody bow before, and they bow and I don't bow, they think I'm not being reciprocal. Because why would you bow? What does it mean to bow? Like, what are you? I didn't do a performance. Why are you? You didn't just do a performance. Why are you bowing? I don't understand why you're bowing. It's nonsensical to bow. But they think that I'm rude because I'm not bowing back lower than they bowed, to submit myself to their, oh no, you're better than me, I'll bow lower. That's their culture and their ritual. They've done it for thousands of years. But for me, like, let's just say if I never was introduced to their culture and I went there for the first time, I would probably, a neurotypical would probably not bow. They would just like stand there like, why did he just bow? Well, that's kind of how Aspies view neurotypicals. Like, why are they doing that odd ritualistic act that makes no sense whatsoever? And they don't understand that there's a history behind it, and the neurotypicals are just doing it because everyone else does it. We do things for reasons. That's the difference. That's the neurotypical difference. We do things for reasons, whereas the neurotypicals don't even question it. They just do it because everyone else is doing it. There may have been some reason why they do these things. See if I can think of an example. Shake hands, for example. Or, I shake hands, but let me think of an example. Oh, to go to sports events. Yeah, and bond at the sports events. Why do you have to bond at a sports event? It's like loud and smelly. And bright lights and, crowds that have people screaming in your ears. But that's like their culture to go, especially in this job I had. Everybody went to the family picnic at the ball game, and you had to go watch the ball game. I never did go because you had to ride in a bus, a crowdy, smelly bus. So, I was just taking care of myself. But it didn't help me get promoted by not going to the company baseball game. And it wasn't even the company playing the game. It was just some random team, that was playing on the weekend that was convenient for the company to go. And I didn't even know the teams, It would have been embarrassing for me to be on the bus and not even know who was playing who, And I wasn't willing to try to learn it because I like to put my mental energy into the projects that I'm working on so that I can be more efficient in those projects and move ahead most quickly. Why would I want to waste my energy on learning about the game, But see, neurotypicals don't understand that because they put that much higher priority than succeeding in your career. So that's just, again, it's just a difference. And the neurotypicals perceive anyone different than them as a weirdo that has to be ousted. So they write these DSM things that say derogatory things about us, when in fact we are beautiful beings that need to be appreciated because we're the ones that come up with, theory of relativity and all the technology that arose from that. Okay. So, we appear to not understand, empathize with, or be sensitive to others' feelings. That's number, I can't read the numbers. So, we appear to. So at least this neurotypical said we appear to. I honor him for that because I think that's a very, very good point, that we appear to the neurotypicals. But we want to understand. And if we haven't ever experienced what they're experiencing because we have a different brain than they do, then how can we have cognitive empathy? However, if you tell us what you're going through in a respectful way, like don't make us wrong for not getting it, but just, say that I know you haven't ever experienced the sadness of losing the game. Like, say if you're talking to the quarterback that screwed up and you don't really know why he's so crushed and sad because maybe he's your big brother. So he explains to you, you may not understand, but it's just a real tribal thing that when you let down the team, everybody hates you. And so, and I'm sitting there, maybe I don't understand it, but I can really see that it upset him. And he says, and he feels like he lets down all his friends, and so he feels shame that he wasn't able to do that quarterback pass or whatever they do with football. And so he'll explain it to the neurotypical in a way that, I know you probably think it's weird, but that's just our culture. And as a result, I'm really sad. Then I would like really, 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 really want to hug him and pat him and just, what can I bring you some hot chocolate, big brother, like that. And so we really want to help and everything, but sometimes we just don't understand why they're upset, because again, they have a different neurotype, and the things they get upset about are different than what I would get upset about. Like, a lot of Aspies are in the INTJ and the INTP group, and the INFJ and the INFP group in the Myers-Briggs system. And they are very much want to save the world, and they're very much in their head, and they're always trying to think of solutions. And that's pretty much the most affective empathy person in the whole world, is the IN people, INXY people. So to say that we lack empathy would be completely wrong. Now, this thing said that we appear to not to understand or empathize, but we do empathize. We do care. We care so much that we would spend our whole life trying to solve problems to help people, to the extent of giving up our social lives so that we can work in the laboratory to try to come up with cures. Cures or fixes or better technologies that don't waste energy, that sort of thing. We engage in one-sided, long-winded conversations without noticing if the listener is trying to change the subject. Now, this is actually true, okay, that we do that. But what we don't know, what neurotypicals don't know is that we are under the impression that they asked us, like, oh, how's your thing going? And we're thinking, well, if we asked that question, we would want to know the key points. In order to get the key points, you have to know all this background stuff. So we're telling them everything so that they can get their question truly answered. And that's the truth part of us. The thing about we're not just being social, we are information exchange machines. Because to us, love means pure communication of ideas and passions. And to neurotypical, love means fitting in and looking like everyone else so that you are part of the team. But Aspies are not, that's just not their definition of love. It's more of communication of truth. And so we'll go on and on about this stuff. Or, maybe some people are just so passionate that they just love to talk about their stuff. And I just think that, yes, this is a symptom, but all it needs is to teach Aspies about this other neurotype so that Aspies can realize, oh, well, I don't know if this person is an Aspie or a neurotypical, so I'm not sure how to answer the question. At least then you can know that you don't know, and maybe assume they're neurotypical for safety, since the majority of people are, and just give a little bit of information. There was a young Aspie coach on YouTube that gave the really good example of the creaky door. If somebody asks you a question, you just open the door a little bit, creak. You don't want to open it all at once because it might be too hard on the ears. So just a little bit. And if they keep asking more information, then you can flood them with all the details. And that's a really good thing that I think all Aspies need to be taught. And I think all neurotypicals should also be taught certain things of how to relate to Aspies. And so that it's kind of like when I am a person that's not culturally trained and I go to China and everybody's bowing and I don't know how to do it, or maybe Japan, it's kind of like before you go to Japan you should learn about bowing and other things in Japan that are culturally different. And so in a global world now, we are all learning about each other. That's a good thing. And now we just have to add to that, we have to learn not only the country's cultures, but the different neurotypes. And the main two being the Aspies versus the Neurotypicals, or the Neurotypicals versus the Aspergers, which is what this channel is called for a reason, because it's trying to reach out to both and say all it is a different neurotype, and if you understood each other, you could, be a lot happier and get a lot more productive value from each other, from interacting with each other. So, engaging in one-sided, long-winded conversation, just to summarize, would be that the Asperger does need to acknowledge that neurotypicals usually don't want all that information. It's just the Aspies that do. And even some Aspies may be practicing their neurotypical manners by saying, hey, how are you? How's your project going? Expecting a short answer. So that's just something that I think Aspies need to learn, just like we all need to learn to be polite and blow our nose in private, you know, that sort of thing, so that you don't bother people around you. And just general common knowledge, common manners. So, and one-sided conversation is something that Aspies need to learn at a young age, just like we need to learn how to eat at a table sitting upright and have all these manners so that you don't make messes at the table and gross everyone out. In the same way, you need to be taught conversational skills, that you always give and take, kind of like writing a story together. They do a little bit, no, I know, another person gave an example of making a sandwich together. They lay down a slice of bread, and then you add meat, and they add something in, so it's a give and take situation. Always assume first that conversations with others are give and take, and share short pieces, and then as they share more, then you can share more, and try to mirror them. That's the rule there that I'll just say. It's a good rule of manners to have. Have eccentric or repetitive behaviors. Well, yes, we do. And isn't that awesome about us, that we do that we're eccentric? What would the world be without eccentric people? Gosh, it would be so boring. Everybody would be the same. So I would say that neurotypicals point that out as a negative. Isn't that interesting that neurotypicals would point that out as a negative? That eccentric would be negative. And whereas me, I'm drawn to eccentric people. And I mean, even the most eccentric person that might be like a homeless person in New York City that's dressed in all this bizarre stuff, I'm drawn to that person. I want to know their life story. And I don't know, I'm a little scared of them actually, because I don't know what they're about, but I am interested in them, you know, like I would like to know more about them. To me, that's where the knowledge lies, in the people that are different. And in terms of the repetitive behaviors, well, I think neurotypicals do pretty much repetitive behaviors too, that are sort of nonsensical. Like, say hi to everyone in the hallway, or go to lunch with the same crowd every single day, or always play poker, or always drink beer every night, or like all these. That's repetitive behavior if you ask me. And always watch TV, always watch the same TV show. So that's repetitive behavior. So what's wrong with my repetitive behavior of always wanting to play my guitar, or always wanting to paint, or this repetitive behavior that I've just learned actually, and now it's become a habit, is because it calms me down. And I went out of my way to buy this awesome antique teacup that's very, very thin but high density ceramic, and it rings when you do it. It's just like a musical instrument, and I'm activating alpha brain waves. And if I ever get stressed, or when I want my kitty to get sleepy, I slow down the tapping. And it really helps you to slow down. So neurotypicals might call that repetitive behavior, but I just call it ASMR bliss. Let's see. Showing an intense obsession with one or two specific narrow subjects. Hello? How can you save the world if you spread your interests over a million things? I have to admittedly say I do have quite too many passions. Ventriloquism, art, science, music, writing books, doing cartoons, but I are the Asperger's people that can narrow it down to one or two passions, because those are the places where they'll probably invent the best video game ever, like Pokemon, because that was made by an Aspie, I heard, and also the best movie ever made, or the best mathematical equation, and or the best mathematical insight, well, like Einstein, for example, and Newton. So, let's see. Showing an intense obsession with one or two specific neurosubjects. I got that one. Speak in a, which I think is a great thing. That's what I think we need to do, is narrow our interests so that we have all our energy going to one thing so that we have a better chance of success. Speak in a voice that is monotonous, rigid, or unnecessarily flat. Wow, if everybody spoke like this, wouldn't it be gross? I like monotonous voices. It's very calming. Gosh, these neurotypicals are so judgmental. Move clumsily with poor coordination. I'll give you that. But here's the thing. I made a chart on here just today that our motor region of our brain, our cerebellum that's like the motor region. So ours is bigger, but it's less connected than a neurotypical's. And so that they think that might be why we're sort of clumsy. But that's okay with me, because like I was still able to do really, really intense spinning on the ice and circles on the sand, you know, where you twirl and circle and the whole world seems to spin around you. I was able to do that because I was using my cerebral function to control it. And, you know, the physics of, I don't know, gyroscopic inertia that you create, and also, and that's my term, by the way. You're going to go, that doesn't make sense, but that's my term in my physics theory, etheric flux theory. But basically the centripetal and centrifugal acceleration of spinning, I was able to apply mathematics in order to get myself to spin because I couldn't feel it naturally. But then later I learned to feel it naturally. I just needed that little intellectual boost. And but while we're less connected in our cerebellum, and so we tend to be a bit clumsy, we have a lot more connections in our thinking part of our brain, and that's why we're so hyper-focused and able to solve very, very complex problems. So, I don't know, I guess I'd rather be that than the sports person. And again, that might be another neurodiverse way of why I don't particularly appreciate sports so much, because I don't have the ability to do all those fantastic jumps. So I don't really get why is that so great? Because maybe the people that are neurotypical, I don't know, maybe they appreciate it more because they can do it themselves, or they could have done it if they had gone that route. I don't know. But anyway, so that was the list, and I tried my best to communicate, you know, kind of like how the neurotypical psychologists that write this list up are sort of judgmental. And you can't really, if you're an Aspie or a potential Aspie, you think you might be, and you read that list, don't go by that. Go by the forums of people that have been diagnosed as Aspie, like Michelle Vines did, and you might start to go, you know, I am like that, and maybe I am Aspie. But again, I'm not saying go get diagnosed. Why would anyone want to get diagnosed? It costs like $1 million, and you have to go for 2 million years, actually 2 years, but it does cost a lot of money, and what's the point? Because by that time, I'll be so in debt, you know, that's not going to help my life, you know, except for what helps my life is just to know internally that I have these tendencies, that I have a neurodiverse, I'm on the neurodiverse scale, and oh, look at these other people, they're different from me. I need to know this so that I can forgive them for their foibles, and they need to know that I'm different so they can forgive me for my foibles, because they're not foibles, they're just different ways of being. Okay, that's all I'll say today. I hope this was helpful, and if it was, please like, subscribe, and thank you for listening.